Hello YouTube, how's it going? This is the crossover and I'm back with another video. Today we are going to be going over a scouting report for Baylor guard Keyonte George. So without any further delay, let's get straight into the video. Part of Keyonte George's game is his shot creation. He's a scoring guard first and foremost and is capable of getting hot and putting up threes in bunches from behind the arc. From a mechanical perspective on ball, his shot is also fine as well, as he has a nice high release and good hand placement on the ball. Also does a good job holding his follow through until he sees the results of his shot. He also has a very nice handle, does a good job using different hesitations to lull his defender to sleep in order to get up these shots, likes to use a multitude of different hesitation moves, and I think this is the main allure for Keyonte George as a prospect. Does not mean that everything is perfect for Keyonte, however, as his shot selection is definitely an area of improvement. He doesn't do the best of job in terms of creating separation on the ball, thus resulting in him taking a lot of difficult shots. As you can see here, that was a heavily contested step back three over Julian Strother, 6'7" NBA prospect. So he doesn't have the best of shot selection, and that's something that he's going to have to improve on. And if he's going to continue to take such difficult shots, he has to do a better job in terms of creating separation, utilizing more side steps, maybe do a better job of improving his handle to the point where he creates more separation between himself and his defender when he is getting up these shots. And this really lowers his efficiency and hampers how good of a shooter Keyonte is. Keyonte provides a ton of value as a spot-up shooter. He's a great movement shooter, so that means that even if this on-ball stuff isn't necessarily working to start off his career, he's going to provide value as a spot-up shooter. Everything I said with his mechanics translate to off-ball, if not more, as he's able to get an even higher and more stable release. And just being able to be used in a multitude of different situations as a shooter is going to provide so much value for his profile once he reaches the NBA. Keyonte George's passing is an especially underrated part of his game, and a part of his game where I feel can determine his ceiling at the next level, given another part of his game, which we will get into later. However, I think his passing is extremely underrated. I think he's one of the more gifted passers in this class. He has exceptional touch on a lot of these passes, and that holds for both his transition passing and his playmaking in the half court, right? And just the touch as a pick and roll ball handler, especially, I think is going to provide a ton of value for his on-ball profile at the next level, right? I think he's going to provide shooting from day one in terms of spacing, being able to be used as a movement shooter. But with the on-ball stuff being a bit of a question, adding value as a playmaker is going to give teams a reason to put the ball in his hands and let him experiment from day one. So I really love this aspect of his game. Has beautiful touch on all these passes. This cross-court pass to the opposite corner, I mean, that was just absolutely perfect in terms of the touch and the placement. I love Keyonte George as a passer, and I expect this to be a part of his game to really thrive at the next level. As a finisher, Keyonte George is a bit of a mixed bag. I'm currently conflicted as to how to feel about him, but start off with the positives. You can see examples here of brilliance, right? He typically only goes to two different finishes around the rim, and that is his left-handed layup, where he likes to use his body to create some space, maybe garner some fouls, and get up shots at the rim. And he also relies on a right-handed teardrop, and generally he loves to go to this right-handed teardrop in most situations, regardless of where he is on the floor, and he generally does a good job getting off this shot. He has a multitude of different moves that he can go to in order to get off this right-handed floater. However, I think he's going to have to diversify his palette a little bit. The reason why I say Keyonte George has to diversify his palette as a finisher is because he doesn't do a great job of creating separation. Usually defenders are riding his hip. As you can see with a lot of his dribble combinations, it's generally an attempt to kind of lull the defender to sleep, as you can see with his jump shots, right? I think it's really evident with his jump shots where he's not necessarily trying to, just get the defender out of his way. It's always to kind of lull them to sleep so that he can get a shot up over them, right? And that doesn't really bode well in terms of, getting to the rim, because as you can see here, the defender's just riding him and he's not really losing him. And I think this is a big area of improvement for Keyonte George, right? He's stocky, he's not a good vertical athlete, and then when you're limited as in terms of your variety of finishes around the rim, it's gonna limit you, right? And I think this is a part of his game that's going to have to grow. So I think the handle has to improve in order to be able to lose defenders off the dribble, or else I could really see Keyonte George struggling as a finisher at the next level, as he has so far at the collegiate level. As a defender, Keyonte George is a very solid on-ball defender. He has decent footwork to where he's able to, move laterally. Some defenders, again, not the quickest guy, but again, he has pretty impressive footwork, again, given his stockiness and rather, lack of overall athleticism, right? He has a good job anticipating passes, as you saw right there, being able to jump that pass, and generally just does a good job staying in front of his defenders. It was a part of his game that I think a lot of people underestimated coming into the year. He generally does a good job staying with his man as long as he's not going through, too many actions, or he's not, involved in, any weak side actions, which is something we will talk about later, but generally does a good job staying in front of his man and contesting shots, which I think he's going to have to do at the next level in order to provide value, given some of his inconsistencies offensively. And even if Keyonte George is a fine on-ball defender, he does have his limitations just because of his physical profile, where, some taller, quicker, stronger offensive players are going to be able to get up shots on him or just leave him in the dust just because of his physical limitations, right? But where Keyonte George really struggles defensively is as a weak side defender, where he has a very bad habit of ball watching, which results in his man often cutting a lot of times. As you can see here, Tiger Campbell gets a ball screen at the top of the key, is able to kind of probe a little bit, gets under the rim, and Jalen Clark is able to cut from the weak side and just get an open shot at the rim because Keyonte was just ball watching. And Baylor's defense generally involves, a lot of switching. I feel like Keyonte George does it the most out of anybody, where almost in any screen situation he's switching, and as you can see here, again, just get called ball watching. Maybe that was a result of him maybe calling too many switches and whatnot. So I think that's definitely a part of his game he's gonna have to work on. As you see here, it just feels like all the time. I know Baylor does a lot of switching, but it feels like Keyonte George does it the most. And it can result in him giving up a lot of shots. He's not perfect in terms of a transition defender either, as you can see there, where he has a bad habit of just biting for fakes, and he can struggle in terms of closing out on shooters. So off-ball defense is going to be a big area of improvement for Keyonte. Overall, Keyonte George is a prospect with a ton of strength. Obviously, you can see the allure as this three-point shot creator that's going to give you value as a playmaker, and is better than expected defensively, but still has a fair amount of limitations, both in terms of his physical profile, with his size, with his lack of a burst, which affects him both as a defender, limits his ability to defend on ball, and also hurts him in terms of finishing at the rim and just creating overall separation. So as a result, he's going to have to really work on his handle to be able to create the separation and make up for his lack of a plus physical profile, right? So Keyonte George is a prospect that I like. I think he projects to be a shot creator, but not a consistent one because of his limitations that we discussed in this video. I think he's going to be a guy who can get hot, provide some value as a playmaker off the bench for whatever team ends up drafting him, and be an okay, maybe average, maybe even slightly above average for certain periods of time, maybe a year or two throughout his career at the next level. However, he's a player that I think has upside. If the handle is able to improve and he's able to create separation, more often I could see him having a quality starter, maybe even possibly more than that in terms of his upside. However, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think about Keyonte George in the comment section below. Am I a bit too high on him, too high on him, too low on him? But let me know what you guys think down below. And aside from that, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and if you have subscribed, please share the video with a friend. We want to keep growing the channel, keep growing the community that we have here. And yeah, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and take care. Have a blessed day, and peace.